Welcome to Junkyard Haunts, where we turn trash into hunts. Today we're going to be making a prop from a movie, but we're going to make it with some variations. We're actually going to be making from the movie Labyrinth, the Eye Lichens. Now in the Labyrinth they're actually like attached to a wall, so we're going to change it up a little bit and have them actually be a potted plant. Now like always we're going to be using trash, so I have an old butter spread container that I'm making my pot out of, and to add some weight, make sure it's not top heavy, I throw a big rock in. And then I had leftover caulking from an internal project I did in my house, so instead of letting it harden and go to waste for the most part, I just went ahead and used it to make sure the rock doesn't rattle around or anything. We could also use hot glue or anything like that. And in order to make the actual base part, the dirt part of the plant, we're just going to put a layer of cardboard down. And since our butter doesn't have a normal lip that you normally see on pots, we're just going to go ahead and add one in, again using cardboard. In order to do this, you just cut strips that are all the same size and hot glue them on. And even that part where we're putting the dirt, we hot glue that on too. We just don't want things rattling and moving around a lot. So the more you glue on, the better it is, the more stable it is. To make the actual plants, we're going to start with some wire. Normally in these cases I use sticks, but today we're going to do something new. You can just poke this through the cardboard until it gets down to the rock that's underneath of it, and then just hot glue it on so you can't pull it out. And the eye lichens have little eyeballs at the end because they're watching you. So I had some toy eyeballs that I just drilled a hole in so I could easily stick it onto the wires. And we have to build up the wire to actually make it look like a thick plant. So I'm actually using Celluclay, which I've used Celluclay before on my shrunken head. So if you want to check out that prop, I'll put a link up here, and you can also look at that one, but of course after you finish this one. Celluclay is really cheap and inexpensive, and you just add a little bit of water to it, and then you just build it up around the wire. To smooth it out, I always dip my finger in some water to smooth out the Celluclay. But since this is a plant, it doesn't have to be that smooth. Gaps and holes are great, and I think add more to the plant. I'm actually working with another YouTube channel where I'm using his music to play in the background, so I'll go ahead and be quiet for a little bit and just let you listen to that. Now I actually felt like these 4 eyeballs just wasn't enough in our plant, so here's a time where I actually go in and just add some more, just like last week's where I talk about just adding more if it doesn't look good. And this of course is built the exact same way. I'm going to be making props every Monday, so make sure you subscribe and follow along. And I actually finally created a Facebook page, so make sure you join, like the Facebook page, and we can see some behind the scenes there. Using more Celluclay, we're actually going to build up around the eyeball a little bit. We don't want that much white. And if you notice, the eyeballs actually like move around and wiggle a little bit. We definitely don't want that in any of our props. So we're going to also use this time to make sure that that eyeball is secure by building up the Celluclay. This works just like the wire, where you just start wrapping it around the eyeball, use some water to smooth it out, and go up as far as you want. I actually was just going to go ahead and spray paint the base and leave it how it was, but after I didn't like how it turned out, so that's why you see my base is black now. That is unnecessary because I'm actually going in and texturing it so it looks better. It looked too smooth and clean. I did not like how that looked. So the texture, and I'm actually using, it's called thin mortar, and you just add some water and paint it on to wherever you want, and it actually creates a nice like sandy bumpy texture. It will make this look more stone-like, but I just like the texture way better than that smooth black paint look. After you get that on and it dries, go ahead and paint it up. If you don't use a thick paint for this thin set mortar, it will crumble off because it is basically sand, so you want to use a very thick type of paint. I'm actually using exterior latex paint, which helps things be waterproof, but the rest of this isn't necessarily waterproof. Now I actually wanted my plant to have leaves. I know it doesn't exactly like the Labyrinth thing now. They have more of like a moss around, but since we make things out of junk here, I had leaves laying around and I didn't have moss. So maybe we'll go back and try to make them more accurate to the movie Labyrinth. But you can just hot glue gun some leaves on and make our plant at least look more plant-like. And then we have to paint the Celluclay. This probably would have been easier if I would have painted the Celluclay before I glued the leaves on, because we don't also want to paint the leaves. But I was just trying to avoid a step, because after you hot glue gun the leaves on, you'd have to paint that hot glue gun mark. It probably still would have been faster and easier had I painted first, so I suggest painting before you glue the leaves on, and then coming back and repainting over the hot glue gun marks. Just like a lot of my other props, when I do painting, I use a dirty mixture of my paint. So in this case, I mix some green with some black, but I mix it poorly, so you still see blacks and greens in one stroke of paint. It is an excellent technique, and I hope you all use it. To make our plant look more like an actual plant that you have in your house, I had some wood bark out in my yard that I stole. This is easy to put on. You just put a whole bunch of glue down, put the wood bark on it, fill it up to make sure it looks nice, and then pour a whole bunch of more regular white glue right over it. You see me, I'm using a brush to spread it around. That's a great way. You just want to make sure that you get all of your bark with glue on it. That way it will stick to each other, and it makes sure that none of the bark will fall out, so that your prop stays intact. And then our last step here would be to actually make our pot look a little nicer by doing some dry brushing. To dry brush, we just take the same color we had before, add a little bit of lighter tone to it, so in this case white works great, and then just rub the brush, dip the brush in the paint and scrape it off. There's only a little bit tiny paint left on there, and just paint it on to the pot. Because there's so little paint on the paintbrush, it'll only get the high parts. Thanks for watching probably one of my most favorite creations we've made so far. Leave a comment below, tell me what you think. Don't forget to share with your friends. I really like making these plants, so subscribe and we can make some more plants. At the end of these videos, I like to go over what I could have done better. Maybe if I would have taken some clear nail polish and painted the actual eyeball parts, it would have made it shiny and look more like eyes. I think that would have made it look awesomer. Awesomer? Shh, we're gonna torture him. Bah, bah, bah. Haha, that's what you get for not having eyelids.